Okay, so we're going live over here at Nehalem Bay House. For those of you who don't know, here at Care we actually have two assisted living facilities. One is Nehalem Bay House up here in Nehalem, and the other one is Kilch's House down in Tillamook. I am joined by the Commissioner Skaar, formerly known as Erin, Executive Director of Care. I am Peter. I replaced Erin back in December, and we're here to take our first mile up here at Nehalem Bay House for the Care-a-thon. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, I'm super excited. I signed up for the full 26 miles, so I figured I better get started.
And I have also signed up for the full 26 miles, and throughout the 26 days, I will be featuring 26 different people from Tillamook County. As the new guy, I figured that I'd take this chance to go on a walk, get to know people, and figure out what's going on in Tillamook County. But let's go for a walk and let's chat.
Let's.
And not get hit by cars.
Yes.
So, Erin, tell me about the bowl-a-thon, because as someone new, I know the bowl-a-thon exists. I know that it's been here for a very long time. Can you describe sort of the history of the bowl-a-thon?
Sure, you bet. So I came to Care actually from a Big Brother, Big Sister program, and they had a bowl-a-thon. It was the, I'll forget the name they used, which is good because it's probably trademarked and I shouldn't talk about it. But I came from Hood River, and I had run their bowl-a-thon. And when I got to Care as the fundraiser, which was my first job at Care, I needed to create an event. So I decided to bring that model to Tillamook County. So we did our first year, and we raised $5,000 in our first year. And that just blew us away, right? I mean, it was the first time we'd had an event at Care. It was, I think we planned it with about 2 months lead time. So normally you want to have, 6 months, 8 months on an event. So it came together quickly, and we raised $5,000, and we were over the moon. So that was bowl-a-thon number one. And from there, the event grew and grew, and the model said you should be able to raise about $1 per person in your population. That's kind of the standard of that model. And by the time that event ended, which was thanks to COVID, we were raising about $35,000 a year at that event. So it turned out to be a good one for Care. There was a lot of growth over the years that we did it, and yeah, COVID said it's time to change your model, and here we are.
Yes, and it was really sad that we weren't able to do the bowl-a-thon last year. I know that I'm excited to see whether we can bring back the bowl-a-thon in the future. Obviously because of COVID, couldn't have it last year. And then this year, it was kind of in this odd place where we're back to counties going into extreme, we're in moderate, we're in high. And just to make sure that everybody was safe, that we were able to do this, we really kind of pivoted. And as you said, 2 months lead time, it was like, ooh, we've got 2 months to do this.
Yes, because normally a solid event will take you really a year to plan. You close the doors on the event, you have a quick celebration, and you start getting ready for next year. So to pull this one together in 2 months is no small task, and Peter, I give you a lot of credit for that. It's difficult to do.
Oh, thank you.
But what's really great about this, that I think was also great about the bowl-a-thon, is the crowdfunding model.
Mm-hmm.
So, Care has a lot of supporters in the community, and I've always seen Care as a very grassroots sort of organization. We are of the people, by the people, for the people, really that's who Care is. And the crowdfunding model just lets everybody get involved at a level that really works for them. And it gets for Care this amazing group of ambassadors out in the community talking about the amazing work of Care.
Yeah.
So I think the crowdfunding model works well for Care, and I think that's part of what made the bowl-a-thon work so well.
Yeah.
That, and it was just flat fun. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we always talked about was, the bowling, it really had nothing to do with the bowling. It had everything to do with getting out in the community, talking about Care, talking about the needs that Care met in the community, and then just coming together to have a party, to say thank you so much for supporting Care. And bowling is fun because almost nobody is good at it, right? And I think that was one of the keys, right? Was that nobody was very good at it. So it didn't have have to be any kind of a serious day or event. It was just, let's get together and laugh and enjoy. You know, and Care's topics around poverty can sometimes be kind of heavy, you know, when we're talking about homelessness and that sort of thing. So having people come together for a party and go bowling, there was no heavy there. It was all fun.
And I think that's where, when we were talking about, can we do the bowl-a-thon? Is this something that we're going to be able to do? And it was one of those things where, yeah, we could do it, we could raise the money, and we'd probably get the money.
Yeah.
But that spirit of coming together as a community, being able to have fun, do something that is accessible to everyone.
Yes.
Because I know many times I would go to a live auction and I would be like, ooh, a trip to Cancun. I don't have $5,000 to pay for that. But this is really, it's accessible. And one of the things that we really wanted to preserve is, okay, maybe we won't hit $35,000 this year. Let's try. But one of the things that we really wanted to do is get that community aspect back in and have people getting out, talking, socializing, all of that, because we want to have that component of it. It's not just about raising the money, it's about connecting the community and talking about care with all of these lovely people.
Absolutely, and I think the walk-a-thon has so much potential. In fact, I get to be on a team this year. I'm super excited. I've never been able to do that. But I have 4 people on my team that I probably otherwise would not have gotten together with, right? It's a way to connect people differently. So I'm super excited about that, and excited about walking with different people as well this month. So, and seeing other parts of our community. I hope to go from here and walk the new section of trail from Manzanita up to Neoconi Mountain that they just finished. It's a section of the Oregon Coast Trail. So it's also going to encourage me to see parts of my community that maybe I haven't yet. So I think it has a lot of benefits.
And I mean, you get out and you walk, because I'm a new person and I'm going to kind of freak out a little bit because there is an emu. And I had no idea that Tillamook County had emus.
Good morning, Emu.
This is a great example of being able to get out and learn new things about the community. I mean, the Nehalem Bay House is right down the road, and I had no idea that there was a cute little emu.
I know, right?
What? I don't know if you knew that.
You know, I did not know there was an emu. Yeah.
Well, that fits perfectly with what we were saying. We get out and do stuff.
That's right. Parts of our community that we have not explored.
And that's really, I'm like looking all around because I have not walked or driven down this way at all. And I'm seeing the bay out there, which I'm really excited that if we hit that. But I'm a little worried. We have, for those of you who don't know, this camera isn't just floating in front of us. We have Hometown News' own Sadie Walker. I don't think I ever say Sadie's name without saying Sadie Walker because of that. So I think that she's walking backwards. I don't know if we're going to be able to get all the way to the water. But if we do, folks, Sadie might go into the water.
So if you hear a splash, you know what happened. So yes, I have driven down here. So I used to, when I would come to Nehalem Bay House, sometimes just drive down to see the bay because it's beautiful. And I actually found out that this land, I believe, is owned by the trust here, the Land Trust, which is just a great organization doing good stuff too, and keeping this preserved so that you head down to the bay, you have open space. So, yeah.
So, getting to know you more. What's it been like as commissioner? What have you kind of, in the spirit of what are we learning more about the county, what have you learned that maybe you didn't know before?
Ooh,
How is being a commissioner?
Being a commissioner is interesting. I've learned lots of things that I did not know before. So being at Care for 17 years with a little stint at Tides of Change as well, I was very sort of settled into the social services world, you know? And so coming in as a commissioner, one of the things that's been fun is bringing that with me and being able to hit the ground running on projects related to social services, you know? I was talking with somebody and they said, you know, as a commissioner, like, you've actually hit the ground running. Like, you're already embedded in stuff. And I mean, yeah, because like, that was my world before I got here. But I've also had to learn a ton of stuff. So I talked just a little bit about the Oregon Coast Trail segment that I hope to walk today. But I'm also involved in the Salmonberry Trail. So that's also completely new for me to be working with the, you know, the head of the Department of Forestry, the head of Parks Department. I mean, these, folks that just weren't part of my world on a topic that was a part of my world. So I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about forestry. Sorry, we're just watching the road got really rough right here, like the pavement is gone, and she's amazing. So if you tip over, she'll stand back up.
I will.
Okay.
I will say that this whole time I thought, like, no, I can see behind me because I can see the camera. But I cannot. I see behind you guys.
Exactly. Let us know if you need to pause. So I think learning about things I don't know about. Forestry is one. I've known a little bit about it, but really digging in and understanding that really about, almost half of the county's budget comes from the forestry funds that are harvested in the state forest.
Wow.
And I know that there's a lot of, I just say differing opinions around forestry, We have our industrial forests that are privately owned that really are pretty much the strip all up and down that you see right here on 101 on the coast. And some people think that's a bad idea, some people think it's a good idea. Bottom line is it's a critical industry for us in relation to jobs and jobs that pay well.
Yeah.
And then secondarily, as you move inland, you get to the state forest lands, and the harvest on those, as I said, supports half of our county services. So I didn't know that. I actually didn't know how our county services, but I knew that we had taxes and we had timber. And I was on the budget committee for 2 years before I became a commissioner, but I didn't get that deep into exactly where that money was coming from. The treasurer would just tell us, this is how much you have, and here's the expenses that everyone's asked for. And as a budget committee, we would grapple with, okay, how do we make those balance? What are we going to fund? What are we not? But this year, getting in there as a commissioner and actually understanding each funding source, where it comes from, what it pays for, that's been very eye-opening for me. Just really, really deeper understanding.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is very interesting, especially coming from an area where forestry is not a huge thing.
Yeah.
And just the timber industry is, as you're saying, is vital.
Okay.
We're doing a maneuver where we're...
Well, I
Yeah,
want
so
to see
then
the
you all
bay.
can see the bay behind us.
Yes, the wonderful bay. And now we're halfway to our first mile.
Woohoo!
Is anybody watching us, Sadie? Yay!
Oh, hey!
We have 4 people.
Thank you for joining us today.
Nick Troxel says, safety first, nice shorts, Peter.
Yes. I decided to do neon when I walked into Nehalem Bay today. One of the first questions that I got from one of the residents was, who are you and why are you wearing such offensive shorts?
Oh, I love it.
I was like, well, road safety, absolutely, Nick. I have to be seen. We've had a couple of cars that have already gone by, and they definitely are not missing me.
Well, that is true. That is true. I love Nehalem Bay House, and I love the residents. And, as we age, some of our filters fall away, and we're far more likely to be 100% honest, which when you said that the resident asked you about why you were wearing such offensive shorts, I thought, that is so perfect, right? Because as we age, we get that freedom to say exactly what we want, exactly what we think.
Yes.
So, I love that.
Yes, and that's one of the things that, in sort of talking with people about care, a lot of people don't realize that Care does own and operate Kilchis House and Nehalem Bay House. And I'm wondering, Erin, just from a historical perspective for everyone, how does that fit with Care's mission? I mean, usually you think of an assisted living facility and it's like, oh, what?
Yeah, Care's mission is really around alleviating the effects of poverty. It is around helping those in need. And assisted livings were built in the late 90s. I'm going to give a little history on it because I think that helps you understand how they ended up with Care and why it is in our mission. So in the 90s, Oregon Housing and Community Services, the state department that's kind of responsible for housing in the state, did an assessment and determined that there were not enough assisted livings in the state and that really every county should be served by at least one. And so they created a program of low-interest bond loans to encourage people to develop assisted living. And across the state, a lot of communities did. A lot of private developers did in communities where they felt like this is going to be ultimately a really successful and financially successful endeavor. And they thought, yeah, I'll take this low interest loan and do this work. Well, Tillamook County, when they came to the end of it all, they discovered that Tillamook County, we didn't have any developers that had jumped on board. We didn't have anyone who really wanted to build an assisted living here. So then they started reaching out to nonprofits like CARE, specifically community action agencies, because quite often community action agencies are involved in low-income housing. It's one of our areas of interest and often expertise. So they reached out to CARE and said, would you build, own, operate an assisted living in Tillamook County? So CARE said, yes, we'll do this. And so Kilch's House was built and opened in 1995. And really the intention at that point was that it was in the spectrum of low-income housing for seniors, right? It was housing with supports. Typically at that point, families came in and helped their loved ones with laundry and cleaning and that kind of thing. What CARE was providing was a building, and they were providing meals, there's some of the basic things, but it wasn't really what it's evolved to today, which is more of a medical model. So we got into it because there was a need for senior housing for those who could no longer stay in their own home that had an affordable component to it.
Yeah.
So, it didn't have to be 100% affordable, but it has to be 20% affordable. Now, CARE as a nonprofit has operated the model with as much affordable housing within it as is needed, right?
Yep.
We have never said we're going to hold to 20%. We have said where our community needs us is where we serve. And so the assisted livings have maintained that as a model where we have some folks who are private pay and we have some folks who are low income and are assisted by the state with their payment. But we don't differentiate from our perspective. It's a cross section of our community, just like your neighborhood is a cross section of your community. And we take those who are in need of a place to live and be cared for. So Kilch's House, 1995, it was going great, seemed like a great model and a good idea. And the Halem Bay House was opened in 1998. So we have both of those. And for a period of time, we had a management company that operated them. And I think that's part of why people don't think of them as a part of CARE, because until 2012, so between 95 and 2012, we had management companies operate them. And so if you went in, you didn't really talk about CARE, just wasn't a part of the top of mind of operation.
Yeah.
And then in 2012, the management company shut their doors because they sold the ones they owned in other communities and it was time to end their business. And we took it over locally. We said, okay, we're going to do this ourselves. So we brought on all the staff that were already there that had the expertise. So like at Kilch's House, Debbie Meyer, who's the director, has been there since it opened. So
in 95.
Right, in 95, bless her heart, that is passion for the mission. And then even up here at Nehalem, Blanca, who's our director, has been with us for, I think, 14 or 15 years, maybe more.
I think it might be 18.
You know what, I think you might be right. I think she'd been there as long as I had. So she started as a caregiver up here about the same time I started as a fundraiser with the organization. So we have these amazing long-term directors that you typically don't see in assisted living. So when we took over, we definitely brought the staff with us because we knew at CARE that we needed that expertise in assisted living management, and we had it. It was in the building. We just brought them in as employees and kept right on trucking. And I think it's been a great opportunity both for CARE and the community. I, as the director, was in and out of these buildings at least once a week. Great opportunity to really understand how they fit the mission and make sure they fit the mission. Great opportunities for people to stay in our own community. I mean, for me, they're just the idea of someone, as we all will age. I mean, I know I look the same as I did when I started here 17, 18 years ago, but we all will age. And the ability to stay in our own community, where our families are, where our favorite restaurant is, where everything we know exists is so important. And I think that's another part of why they fit CARE's mission, right? I mean, it is supporting our community and supporting our seniors regardless of their income level,
Yeah.
in being able to live in their own community.
Absolutely, because one of the issues that we face is that if you can't afford to live here in the community, then the closest areas are up in Seaside or over in Portland, or even down in Lincoln City. And that's really where it's like an interesting way that Care has met the need in an area that you don't commonly think of. You don't think of assisted living or nursing care facilities as being something that relates to poverty. Because a lot of them, as you said, will cap at 10-20% Medicaid.
Yeah.
And then what happens from there? So I think it's really great when we think of the long-term future of this area, with the fact that the population is getting older,
Yes.
and that people will need a place to live that is safe and that's supportive, and that I think one of the things that I've noticed about Nehalem Bay and Kilch's House, that feels like home.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like, I've been to a couple other assisted livings, memory cares, skilled nursing facilities, that it feels like you're walking into a hospital.
Right.
Or it feels like you're walking into a very fancy hotel.
Right.
I remember walking into one and there was literally, it was a reception desk and it looked like I was checking into a hotel. And they had a cafe off to the side that looked like Starbucks. And that was one thing that I was like, ooh, I don't know if I'd want to live here. It would be like living in a hotel.
Right.
Whereas what I love about Kilch's House in Nehalem Bay is that it truly is like a home. It doesn't feel like it's a hotel. It doesn't feel like it's a hospital.
I completely agree. I love the fact the way they're built essentially, I guess it's a square. I always say a circle, but it's really a square. Let's be clear. You can walk around either direction. And what happens for folks is that you have the living room and dining room that everybody shares, and everyone has their own room, which could be an apartment, and they could stay in it if they wanted and not, engage, but they don't. They engage. They open their doors. They often leave their doors open so they can see who's walking by and say, hey, It feels like home. It is not by any means a fancy room. It just feels like home. Kilch's House, I think, has been more elaborate, shall we say, the residents there, in sort of spilling out of their apartments and we help them have a nice sign with their name and some information, but then they put out plants and other pictures and plaques, and they really just sort of spill out into the hallways and make it all their own, which I love. I mean, it is their home.
Yeah.
We are guests in their home.
Absolutely.
We're there to help care for them in their home. But it's their home, and that's super important. People should really feel good about where they're living and have it feel like home.
I completely agree. We're coming up. I think we're on the last 10th of a mile. Oh my God.
I know, right?
I'm out of breath. Help. Sadie, is Nick still trolling us?
I can't tell.
Oh.
I'm sure he's there.
He's probably still there. But definitely encourage people that are watching this now or watching it later, go to careinc.org in order to see how you can get involved with the Care-a-thon. It's really simple. I mean, you just saw it where we walked there and back. It's 1 mile a day and you've completed the marathon. It's a half a mile a day and you've completed the half marathon. And we have pledge sheets. We have an online thermometer that you can use to collect pledges and donations. And really, what this money goes to, and I think, Erin, you can confirm this, it doesn't go to my salary. It doesn't go to buying fancy pens. The pot of money that comes from the Care-a-thon goes directly towards the things that don't fit into the perfect little box of a grant. So the things that people come and it's an odd request, but it's something that is keeping them in their home if we can fix that. And that's where the money goes. It's going directly 100%. And not every nonprofit can necessarily say 100% of that money goes. 100% of this money through the Care-a-thon, through the Bowl-a-thon in the past, has gone into the community and goes directly to the people that we serve. And that's really, it's a unique model because a lot of nonprofits, it's sort of, oh, we got to take a little chunk of that in order to do operations. But this is sort of that pot that allows for us to do the things that aren't covered by a federal or state grant. So yes, I hope that you'll join us. I will be introducing more members of my team. Erin's on her own team, but I'm also co-opting her for a day. So you'll be seeing me either on video, on photos, walking around with people and really getting out into the community, getting to know the community. And I hope that you can join us and knocking out poverty while you're knocking out miles. Ooh, I need to get that down. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you.